Invite on stage the chair for the session, Ambassador Bhaskar Balakrishnan, Research and Information System for Developing Countries. For a special address, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, Vice-Chancellor, D.Y. Patil International University, Pune, and former Head of Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council, Government of India. And the panelists, Dr. Jayant Menon, Asian Development Bank, Manila. Professor U. Dinesh Kumar, Professor in Decision Sciences and Information Systems, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and President of Analytics Society of India, Bangalore. Professor Sudeshna Sarkar, Head, Center for Excellence in Artificial Intelligence, IIT Kharagpur. And Mr. Vivek Saha, Director and Head, Digital Transformation and Industry 4.0, NASSCOM, New Delhi. I now request the chair to please conduct the session. Over to you, sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you. In this session, we are going to embark on a journey to something very, very interesting, Industrial Revolution 4.0 and Indo-Pacific. The whole area of ICT is seeing a lot of changes. Industrial Revolution 4.0, now we have artificial intelligence emerging, and we have quantum computing emerging. So this whole field is witnessing rapid evolution. So obviously it has a great impact and great importance for our region, the Indo-Pacific. So without ado and without losing any more time, it's my great pleasure to invite Professor Prabhat Ranjan, Vice-Chancellor.
Good afternoon to all of you. As after lunch, little difficult to keep you awake. I will try my best. So some of the work that I'm going to talk about was done by my previous organization, TIFAC, which is a technology think tank for Government of India. I'll move very fast because not to take time is already delayed. I'm going to start by talking about this document, Technology Vision 2035. Technology Vision 2035. I have few copies of this, only a limited copy, especially those from outside India can probably take that from me. Others can get it from the TIFAC office in Delhi, and also soft copies available on the website. So this document actually was prepared by TIFAC and released by Prime Minister in 2016, January. And it is actually a vision for India with technology roadmaps to achieve that vision. Earlier work was done along similar line called Technology Vision 2020 that was done in 1996. At that time, Dr. Kalam used to be chairman of TIFAC, who became president of India. And during my time, Dr. Kakotkar used to be chairman of TIFAC. So this Technology Vision 2035, when we were preparing, we asked the question that what should be the objective of preparing such a document, because what we were trying to do is to design India's future. Should we talk about India becoming a 40-odd trillion economy? We decided not to talk about money at all. So two things we have done is to avoid talking about money at all and avoid talking about any other country. We have not talked about any other country. We just focus on India and its citizens. So this document actually, unlike the Technology Vision 2020, which focused on developing India as a country, Dr. Kalam, in his last breath, talked about developed India. We decided to move from India to Indians. So we said that we'll focus on developing the quality of life of every single citizen of India. I'm not going to any details, but we defined 12 prerogatives, which are the parameters to define the quality of life of citizens. Out of this, the 6 on the top are individual parameters, which are important for every single citizen, and 6 at the bottom are collective. I'm not going into any of these because short of time. For each of these, we have defined to achieve that vision. The technology table has 4 columns. The leftmost is technology which is ready to deploy. That means technology which is available in the country, outside the country, but not being used on large scale. The second column is technology which needs to go from lab to field. We found that this is India's weakness, where most of our work remains within the lab, does not go out to field. So this is India's weakness. The technology does not go out of the labs, research labs, and so on. The third is very interesting, and this is the one where we put those technology areas which need targeted development, because we found that those areas where India has defined targets very clearly, especially space, atomic, or missiles, India has done quite well. Most of other areas, the targets are not well defined, they're very scattered. So we defined totally about 60 targets are there in this. Out of that, Niti Aayog has taken about 20 of them to take forward. The lastmost column, where there's only one dot in this particular one, is very interesting. It's called technology and imagination. Those technologies which we thought may happen, may not happen, may take 25, 30 years to happen, we put those there, saying that it's something in imagination we don't know. What was very surprising, that even before we could hand over this document to Prime Minister's office, sometime in October, November 2014, after Prime Minister took over, I had a request from Prime Minister's office. We quickly finished the draft, got it designed. So this is not like a Sarkari document. It's not a government boring document. It looks very attractive. You can go through this. And we handed over. We found that some of the technology put in technology dimension started to happen even before the ink had dried, so to say. So two trends are very clear. Technology is happening at a much faster pace than we expect. And second is technology diffusion is also happening at a much faster pace. This also means technology obsolescence is also extremely high. So there's one more chapter in this where we have talked about essential prerequisites. There are three transversal technology areas that we have talked about: materials, manufacturing, ICT. And the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is actually, these are the three that are fueling that revolution. This document, which is actually Vision for India, is also followed by 12 roadmaps to achieve that vision, which are all separate documents. The first on the top, I put education, because I felt that education to key success of each one of these things. Out of these, 6 were released during my tenure. Education is the first one. You have healthcare, you have transportation, and the 3 transversal sectors, that is manufacturing, and I'm not going to details of these, materials. For example, materials, wonderful things happening. Some of you might be familiar with graphene. There's a borofene that has come. Just to give an example of graphene, it is conducting, it is super strong, and it is transparent. So wonder material. For example, you want to hold the weight of a cat of 3 to 4 kg. You can take a sheet which is equivalent to weight of the whisker of cat, maybe a milligram or so. You can hold the weight of 3 to 4 kg. So that's the kind of thing, and borofene has just come in, which is even better than this in graphene, apparently. Again, I'm not going to details of these. Information and communication technology, all of us are familiar. I need not emphasize on this. So the fourth industrial revolution is fueled by a group of technology as well as advancements in biological processes. Sensing, actuation, processing, communication, energy, these are the fundamentals. Right now, it is a phase wherein what is called deceptive phase. Slowly, it's going to change into what is called disruptive phase. And this term I've used from what is called 6 Ds of technology disruption. And what is happening is that the kind of thing we are going to see is that technology disturbing traditional industrial process in a way that we are not going to go back ever to that. As I mentioned, I'm not again going to read this out, but anything that gets digitized, it goes through a phase of deception, disruption, demonetization, dematerialization, and democratization. Like when I was young, I used to be very proud owner of a camera. Today, everybody has a camera because it got become digital. So once you get this digitized, something gets digitized, it leads into democratization. The way I see the impact of IR 4.0, one is, of course, improving the efficiency of existing industrial processes, but also new processes for existing products will come in, including biological products. Completely new products may come up because they never existed, it was not possible. But also one more thing that is happening, that completely new production environments will become possible, which will see new use cases. I'll come to some of these, I'll give some examples. So a few examples let me give you. Vertical farming, some of you might be familiar, multi-layer vertical farming using 90% less water, no pesticide, and using no sunlight actually. And you can grow 40 to 300 times more crop. You can take, this is called urban farming also, from the farm to the consumer in 2 hours. So within 2 hours, you can have fresh whatever you're growing. Already work has started in India, also in Goa, somebody set up, in Singapore, in US, in Japan, it's already happening. So this is likely to grow very much, and it will save a lot of resources because you're saving a lot of land, you're saving 90% water and so on, which is very important. Cellular agriculture is like a revolution in food production, where actually you use cell culture in the lab to create products where animals were involved. Just to give 3 examples, meat without animal, which I call meat 2.0. That means you don't grow animal, you don't have to kill animal, but you can take the cell and grow it in the lab, and you can produce the same final product. Final product is same, identical, ideally. Identical, same meat that you're eating is the same thing, the process is different. In one case, you have animals being grown and killed, and second process, you do it in lab. Then you find that you can save 99% resource. Livestock farming consumes huge amount of resource. We are not even aware, including the greenhouse gas emissions, like more than 20% come from livestock farming. So meat without animal has been produced already. It's in process of commercialization. One Indian gentleman is involved in this also, Dr. Umawaleti. We had a meeting with Mrs. Menka Gandhi last year when he had come. Egg without chicken has been produced. Milk without cow has also been produced. Milk without cow is already commercialized. So this means that even the concept of what is vegetarian versus what is non-vegetarian completely goes away, because we don't know how to define non-vegetarian. So far we defined it when you are harvesting an animal, probably that's non-vegetarian. But when you have no animals involved, then is it really vegetarian or non-vegetarian? So that's the kind of disruption that is happening. So this is the meat without animal example. I'll not go into details of that. I had a whole event in 2018 in Delhi on this. Additive manufacturing, popularly known as 3D printing, is again changing everything. Before industrialization first, in 1750s, which was distributed manufacturing, India was in top 20 to 30% of global manufacturing, including China. India and China used to compete in the first 2 positions. Till 1800, this continued, and then slowly colonization brought us down to less than 2%. Now we are going back to the same distributed and customized manufacturing. It will have impact on supply chain because the production of goods will happen closer to the consumer's point of consumption, will be most sustainable and cost effective. I'll give you some examples of this. For example, this is a house being 3D printed. In 24 hours, you can build this house of 500 or 800 square feet. It looks as good as anything else, and use much less material. Cost is much cheaper, like $4,000, you can make an 800 square feet house of that order. So you can imagine the impact it would have on rehabilitation efforts, on low-cost housing, and so on. And even big buildings have been made using this technology. In the classroom, again, 3D printing is changing completely. I'm, again, not going into details. If you look at biological system, bone and cartilage can be produced through this. You can have, if you've had a fracture, normally the casts are very heavy, very uncomfortable. You can have designer cast now. You can choose the color, you can choose the design. And not only that, you can feed ultrasound into that to heal the bone even faster. You have organs being produced. In a few years' time, we're likely to have organs being produced. We have heart and blood vessels being produced. At the same time, what is happening, fusion of biology and technology is happening. So this means that organs for human transplant are being grown inside sheep and pigs. You grow those organs and then take that organs out for transplanting in the human being. As you are aware that there is a huge queue of people waiting for organ transplants. At the same time, we have artificial womb that has been created. Baby sheep is being successfully, it has grown in this for about 1 month it was kept. And slowly, human babies could also be cared by this. At the same time, human sperm has been grown in the lab. Eggs have been grown in the lab. Does it mean that the way we see reproduction today, will it end and we can grow human being in the lab itself? Brain-computer interface, something that I worked for last 8-9 years. Mainly my focus was to help people with disability, like this gentleman who was in locked-in condition. But if you look at that, the discussion that is going on is that can a computer develop consciousness? The AI system, can it develop consciousness? This is a movie scene from Ex Machina. I will not go into details of that, otherwise I'll get completely taken away. In 2015, one of the talks, I talked about adding memory to the brain. It's like a pen drive that we carry. You add pen drive to your brain. Actually, I had predicted 2018 it will happen. 2018, this is the news that happened. 33% enhancement in memory power by adding additional memory from outside. This can have impact in ways that the whole education system can get disrupted. I don't need teachers. I can have materials. I can transfer knowledge to brain directly. And it's already happening. It's already happening. New pilots have been trained using the systems so that the old pilots' experience is being transferred and the new pilots are training 33% faster. So knowledge transfer to brain, does it mean that we don't need teachers anymore? I'm also a teacher, but bad news. Body and machine combining together. So this gentleman lost his hand. Now he wanted a tattooing machine. So he doesn't want the prosthetic arm. He wants a tattooing machine. The machine and body is combining together. Exoskeletons are doing wonderful things. Similarly, digital immortality. Are we close to achieving that? So there are 4 stages of that. I'm working on stage C of this. And what I'm trying to do is to create a digital avatar of a person which will combine holography, speech recognition, speech synthesis, and artificial intelligence, and recreate a person even after they have left this world. I'm working on 4 people, Dr. Kalam, Dr. Ranjan, 2 of the presidents, Pandit Dindayal Upadhyay, and my president of the university, Dr. D.Y. Patil. 3 are no more. Dr. D.Y. Patil is around, so there's a different ways to handle this. This will mean that we could store experiences. So even like many of you have probably gained a lot of experiences, you can continue to have benefit of your experiences. It will also have impact on education. Because I could recreate teachers everywhere, the best teacher we could recreate everywhere. Robotics and artificial intelligence are combining together. Probably we'll hear more about that. I'm just going to focus on 2 areas. One is the deep sea conditions, and another is the space part. So personally, I see that the 2 growth areas are, one is going closer to center of Earth, other is going away from center of Earth. So one is deep sea, other is space. Deep sea mining is becoming very, very important. Most of this will be without human beings. Robotics and AI will play a role. Communications are going to be tough, so robotics, AI, independent decision making will be there. Similarly, space, if I look at, we are going to be inhabiting multiple planets. Already plans are there of Moon, Mars, and so on. According to a NASA report, between Mars and Jupiter, there's a asteroid belt that has so much mineral wealth that if I divide among all the people on the Earth today, everybody will get $100 billion. So you can imagine the amount of wealth that is lying there. Obviously, we are trying to pursue that. Asteroid mining is something that is coming up in a big way, and this will all require robotics and artificial intelligence. And for example, this particular space rock is valued to be $10,000 quadrillion. $10,000 quadrillion. It's not billion, 10,000 quadrillion. I can't even imagine how many zeros are there. NASA has been wanting to go here. Now, if we have to pursue a space where you might have to travel for 10, 20, 30 years, robots have an advantage that they can be put into hibernating mode or switched off mode, but human beings cannot, because we need to consume food. We are expensive. If I have to commit to a robot, I have to have the capability of hibernation, so that I can go into low power mode, just like animals do that. We have somehow lost this knowledge, but some of our Rishi Munis from the country, Indo-Pacific countries, have shown that without using a lot of energy, you can survive for a long time. So can we learn that back and compete with robots? Otherwise, robots are going to take over the space travel because we will not be able to compete. So based on these, to end the talk, I would say that there are 4 points of cooperation from my point of view. One is, of course, the education is very key to all of this. Traditional knowledge, other area that these countries are strong. We have not done good in that, combining our knowledge together. And the 2 areas of growth that I see is space and deep sea. Space, India is very strong in that. And deep sea is most of the countries participating in this process would have interest in this, which is going to be extremely important for our growth. Just to end the talk, in my university, what I'm trying to do is to some of the things that I've talked about, I'm trying to implement it in my university. So I've started a computer science engineering program. With 2 years, they focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning. They have to do one of these tracks, data science, robotics and AI, intelligent transport systems, IoT, cybersecurity, fintech, bioinformatics, cloud and systems administration, and web and mobile application. We focus on Web 3.0 and cloud computing, along with augmented reality, virtual reality, and holography, and also games design. This is just an example. So education system has to undergo change to take care of this revolution that we are seeing. So that's the end of the talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, for the very thought-provoking talk. I won't react to it, but I'm sure some of the panelists will have something to say. It's my pleasure now to invite Dr. Jayant Menon, lead economist in Asian Development Bank, Manila, to talk to you. Dr. Menon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that was indeed a very exciting talk. Everything from the end of human reproduction to the expansion of our memories and capacities. I might need one of those pen drives later on. I'll talk to you about it. So let me start by thanking the organizers, RIS in particular, for inviting me to be part of this event, and for the fabulous hospitality that the Government of India and RIS have provided. I think I'm the only economist on this panel, happy to be proven wrong, but looking at the makeup of the session, I thought, what can I say that won't overlap or will add value to the discussion that we're going to have? I won't have any of these anecdotes, these fabulous anecdotes that we've just heard, and I'm sure we'll continue to hear for the rest of this session about the many fantastically rewarding things that the 4IR can deliver, and how it will transform so many aspects of our lives. But as an economist, I thought I would focus in on some of the macro or broader economic implications of the fourth industrial revolution. In particular, I want to focus on the concern that has been raised over the employment consequences of the fourth industrial revolution. This whole idea of whether a robot will steal your job. And do we need to fear the job impact of this new age of digitization and the fourth industrial revolution? Is this widespread pessimism warranted? I also want to talk a little bit about another concern, and that is the distributional impacts of the fourth industrial revolution. Here the concern is that it will lead to increasing inequality within and between countries. On that issue, I think I would like to talk about the driving factors of that likely outcome and what we can do to try and arrest one of these consequences of increasing national and international inequities. And finally, I want to come back to what we can do to try and prepare for the fourth industrial revolution, to meet the challenges, as well as to take full advantage of the opportunities that it has to offer. A lot of my comments will draw on joint work that I was involved in at ADB with the World Economic Forum and the Future of Jobs project. Okay, I think to set the stage, it's useful to remind ourselves that the world has experienced 4 industrial revolutions, and as each has unfolded, so have the predictions of massive job losses. Looking back at the first 3 of these 4 industrial revolutions, it is clear that these concerns were terribly misplaced. The number of jobs increased each time, and so did living standards and just about every other social indicator. So history is on our side. Indeed, ever since Homo erectus, an early human species, carved a stone into a tool, the welfare of the human species has been on a trajectory of increase. This is probably the first technological breakthrough the carving of a stone, which soon led to the hand axe, and today we have the iPhone. So history is certainly on our side. But McKinsey predicts that 800 million workers could be displaced in 42 countries. Now, that's a third of the workforce because of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now, although similar predictions were made at the onset of each revolution of the past, we need to ask ourselves, could there be something more to it this time? Of course, every revolution is different, but how different is this one, the Fourth Industrial Revolution? As you've heard from the previous speaker already, disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, and 3D printing, to name just a few, are indeed transforming social, economic, and political systems, often in unpredictable ways. The technology itself is difficult to map because its growth rate is uncertain, right? It could be exponential, it could be factorial, or could be even higher. So it is this unpredictability that's making impact assessments difficult. If we can't actually properly understand the changes, how can we try and predict the consequences? This is making life difficult, but not impossible. We can still try and come up with some broad parameters about likely impacts using reasonable assumptions about future trajectories. One of those clear trajectories is how many low-skilled, repetitive jobs are being automated already, starting in high-wage countries, or so-called industrialized countries, but quickly spreading to the developing world. With 2/3 of the world's robots already living and working in the Indo-Pacific region, some expect this region to be particularly susceptible to these negative changes. But are there limits to automation? To answer this question properly, it's important to first understand how work itself is transforming, especially within global value chains. Right? GVCs dominate production in the exportable sector of many Indo-Pacific countries, and India is slowly but surely catching up also. Now, in global value chains, jobs consist of a bundle of tasks, and this is true at all skill levels. Now, as long as at least one of these multitude of tasks that a worker performs cannot be technically and economically automated, then that job is probably safe. There are lots of jobs like that within and outside global value chains, even though they may not appear so on the surface. The debate also tends to wrongly focus on gross in this debate, net jobs, not gross jobs. Let me give you an example. Greater automation of production processes will require greater supervision and quality control that will require humans to carry out this function. This illustrates how the focus on gross jobs ignores a number of higher skilled jobs that are created directly as a result of the greater automation, right? Supervisory jobs will be created because of automation, and this will be high-paying jobs. Furthermore, the reduction in the price of the final good that will occur with automation, or otherwise we wouldn't undertake it, the reduction in that price will spur an increase in demand for that good. Now, if the increase in demand is large enough, it may even expand the number of jobs in factories that automate part, but not all, of their production processes. In this case, automation actually leads to a net increase in jobs. Right. Now, there'll also be inter-industry effects, productivity gains from new across the board. Higher demand and more production in one industry raises demand in other industries, and on it goes. So why then do we have so much pessimism about the 4IR and jobs? Let me try and propose very quickly a few reasons so we better understand the pessimism. At one level, it could be that it's easier to see how existing jobs may be lost than to imagine the creation of new jobs sometime in an undefined future. That's just human nature, right? Another reason could be that it's often more sensational to highlight the job-displacing possibilities than the job-creating ones. And here we can blame the media to some extent. We might also hear more about job losses because, like trade liberalization, the benefits are widely dispersed across the general public through lower prices, but the costs are concentrated and can displace low-skilled workers, providing greater incentive to organize and lobby or complain about the negative effects of automation. When there's enough uncertainty as well, it is generally safer to overstate rather than understate the potential cost to innocent victims of change. All of these factors combine to explain the unwarranted pessimism over jobs, in my view. There'll be a lot of disruption. Let us not be unclear or fool ourselves about it. There'll be a lot of job churning, but there is no reason for this much pessimism as a result of it. So in 1 minute, I will finish. So what do we do to prepare for the future of the 4IR? If you're going to focus in on one policy measure, it will have to be education, and not the form of education that we are used to. We need to learn how to keep learning, right? And this will be the real challenge facing countries in the 4IR. Jobs are unlikely to be lost in the long run, but they will be in the short run. Disruption creates opportunities in the long run, but a lot of pain in the short run. We often focus on the short run and we forget the long run, but if we can see through into the long run, we can actually embrace the many benefits that will come with the fourth industrial revolution. I've gone a bit over time, but I thank you for your patience and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Menon. Professor Dinesh Kumar, Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. You have the floor, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Professor Prabhat Ranjan, he talked about how the AI world will look like in the future. And Dr. Jayant Menon was talking about the macroeconomic impact of AI and automation and so on. I'm here to talk about how do we survive in AI world and what the government should be doing and what the decision makers and policy makers should be doing or preparing the society when AI is in its full force. So I'm going to talk about basically what a future generation with this new skill which may be required in the future. But before that, I would like to go with this quote, which was by Oliver Holmes in 1897. He basically said that the man of the future is the man of the statistics, or you can say today, the man of artificial intelligence. So he had the vision almost 120 years back to see the impact of data or data science, if you may like to call it. So let us try to understand what is this AI and how it is going to impact us. So this is another quote. This is my only second quote. So this is by Professor Andrew Ng. He basically said that artificial intelligence is the new electricity. So if you go back to the beginning of 20th century, or in fact, for most part of 20th century, the economic development was driven by electricity. But what we are going to see today is that the economic development or the wealth creation of the countries will depend on how well they are sophisticated in the technologies or the concepts associated with artificial intelligence. Let me give a lighter note on what is this artificial intelligence, data science, and so on. So data science is basically a subset of artificial intelligence. So what you see here is, I'm sure that many of you here know about artificial intelligence, but for those few who may not still understand what it is, I'm just giving a small example. So what you see here is a Facebook relationship breakups, right? And when people break up, they go to their Facebook site and announce to the world, I'm single, I'm happy, I'm in the market, anybody else in the market, and so on, right? Apparently, there is a trend. So a lot of breakups happen in December. We are there now, right? Now, the question is, why do you think a lot of people break up in December? Any guess? Size, or the number of breakups are the lowest during that time, and it starts picking up in December. Right? If you look at that particular period, July to October or November, these are probably working couple, go to office, come back, eat and sleep because they are already tired. In December, there are a lot of holidays, and they start talking to each other. So that's when the problem starts, right? As long as they're not talking to each other, the relationship is fine. The moment you talk to your spouse or partner, then the problem starts. But why should anybody worry about this pattern? Right? So this is where the data science and artificial intelligence comes in. So there is a spike in breakups happen in December, so why should I care about this? Right? It has a lot of impacts on many things. For example, if they are living together, at least one person has to get out of the house. That means the demand for housing goes up. The demand for lawyers and relationship counselors goes up, right? And the download of Tinder or account opening in Tinder and your like dating apps downloads will increase. And one company said that people change the brand of the beer they drink after breakup. Right? Nothing wrong with the beer. They don't want to remember anything from the past. So there'll be a lot of changes happening in individual's life, and probably in January that may be large in number. So basically what we are seeing is that there is a pattern, and we are trying to connect the dots to understand what that pattern means to various business, right? This is a simple explanation of what data science is, which is, again, a subset of artificial intelligence. But pattern recognition is very tough today's world because each one of us use a smartphone, or maybe some of us 2 or 3, and we access many apps. We do many things with our mobile phone or smartphone. So the amount of data that we are creating is humongous. And add to that all the IoT devices, because the sensors have become very cheaper. We put sensors everywhere or every system. So we are seeing a lot more data which is getting generated. Now the question is, can we use this data intelligently and make our lives effective and efficient and so on? So when we talk about Industry 4.0, what we are talking about is a society which is highly digital enabled. So we are living in a digital age. And we are moving towards an age where it will be dominated by AI. So Sundar Pichai, the Google CEO about a couple of years back, he said that Google will move towards AI first company or artificial first company. Now what does that actually mean? So if you look at maybe 20 years back, most companies moved towards internet. So most of the transactions happen through internet. And then they moved towards mobile. So for example, maybe 20 years back, we were sending emails through laptops and desktops and so on. Now we send emails from our smartphone. Now what would AI would do? For example, let us say 20 years back, I used to write in my diary, I have so-and-so appointment. Now, 5 years back, I started putting in my Outlook Express, so I know I have to go and check every day what my appointments are. But today, thanks to the mobile technology, as soon as I wake up, my mobile phone says that okay, you have these many appointments today. Now, the AI world will tell me that, okay, you have an appointment at 10 o'clock, it is going to be boring. Should I send them an email saying that you are sick, right? So that's what the AI can do, right? That's where we are going to, we are heading. But what does that mean, right? These are two things which I want to mention before I go and talk about what that means to the society. So it is going to transform every industry. Not single industry will be left out. But the good news is that this was a McKinsey prediction which says that AI will generate about 30 trillion GDP by 2030. So there is an opportunity for every country, every society to take advantage of AI, provided they prepare the society for that. So what we are going to see is that there will be a lot more changes, and that will make the lifelong learning a necessary part of work. So whatever skill we learn in our undergrad or graduation may not be sufficient to survive for long. So the reskilling will happen a lot more frequently. So probably 50 years back when somebody had a degree, with that degree they survived 30, 40 years in their work, but that's not going to be the future. So we may have to reskill our workforce probably every 3 years, if not every 5 years, right? And we will have a lot of issues, the forces of change, unemployment driven by technology, but as Dr. Jayant was saying, that there will be also a lot of employment created through AI. That means we had to prepare the workforce or the future generation for AI. Now the borders will start disappearing. So I don't have to get a visa to work in a country or work for a company which is in a different country, because I can work from my house for any company anywhere in the world, because that's what the AI is going to do. The technology will enable me to do work for any company anywhere in the world, right? So that means we need to look at few important things. The technology is going to reshape the jobs of the future, and also there'll be a lot of change in the arrangement of the job work itself. So today, the millennials don't want to work 5 days a week. They may say that, okay, I'm ready to work for your company for 2 days, and the remaining 3 days I want to do stand-up comedy, right? So that's the way in which millennials look at their life. So in short, the lifelong education is going to be a major force, and the government and the policy implementers or creators should be prepared for that. So that's basically what I'm trying to focus on. So what we'll see is that if you look at the skill groups, there are physical manual skill, which still forms the largest workforce, like drivers and construction workers and so on. That will slowly disappear. The moment you have self-driving cars and construction becomes much more efficient, you'll see that a lot of those jobs are going. Basic cognition, which is reading and writing ability, that jobs are going to disappear. So most of the jobs will move towards higher cognition and dealing with complex problems, which are social and emotional skills and technology skills. So slowly, we have to create skill for digital age. So that's basically going to be the challenge. And as Dr. Jayant Menon was saying, that even though there are worries about job loss, but there will be a lot more jobs that will be created through AI, and we have to prepare our society for that. At IIM Bangalore, we are writing a lot of materials. We have written about 37 case studies published at Harvard Business Publishing, which are used by more than 220 universities. These are talking about how AI and data science is used by a large number of organizations, both Indian and international organizations. With that, I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kumar. It's now my pleasure to invite Professor Sudeshna Sarkar from IIT Kharagpur to address you.
Thanks to the RIS and the Ministry of External Affairs for organizing it. So I will talk about the challenges and opportunities that Industry 4.0 presents, and we'll also touch upon the role that academia can play here and how academia should play up to this. So, the speakers before has already talked about what the fourth industrial revolution means. And it is very clear that this fourth industrial revolution is going to bring radical changes to our world, which can be disruptive, and it's going to impact every sector. So there have been 3 other industrial revolutions before, and as Dr. Menon has said, there's nothing to worry about. But maybe one of the differences is that the world is changing at a very fast pace today. And this is a revolution that we cannot shy away from. It has to be embraced by every country and every industry government so that they remain competitive. Now, obviously, the fourth industrial revolution brings with it benefits. There's a potential to reduce cost, to have better production efficiency, better throughput. And developing countries have a unique opportunity to fast-track their economic and social prosperity through innovative use of new technology, to drive sustainable economic growth and optimize resource usage and benefit the planet. However, there are a lot of challenges in adopting this technology. And there are challenges faced by different stakeholders for adopting this technology. For the governments, it is important that they build infrastructure, they allow investments, financing, and innovative policy to support the new order. For industries, it remains challenging because not all industry, especially the small and medium industries, they are at a disadvantage to adopt the benefits of the new technology. And there are numerous barriers to this. The awareness of the technology, the lack of talented manpower, the lack of skilled or semi-skilled people who can work in today's digital age, these pose a lot of challenges in adopting this technology. But there's a potential of increased divide between different segments of the population, between different countries, between different companies, as all of them are not similarly empowered to embrace this technology. And there can be new barriers, even uneven growth. And there is also, in the new digital age, there is increased threat of cybersecurity, threat to human privacy, and these are very real causes for concern. However, to enable 4IR, different steps are required. A few of them which I have summarized here. You require technology. Education plays a very important role. Innovation and research, and then have good infrastructure, good policy. And cooperation, which is a theme of this conference, is a very important enabler to embrace 4IR by everyone. So first of all, we'll talk very briefly about the technology. Professor Dinesh Kumar already touched about these things. So while there are various technology pillars for 4IR, then AI, machine learning, etc., play a very important part in this intelligence. And then there is data, which fuels the revolution. And there are other technologies like robotics, additive manufacturing, AR, VR, and apart from the technology, different people are bringing in new business models and services to take advantage of this technology. And then the advances in 4IR can impact all sectors. But these are some sectors which are very important for boosting the economy of a country and harnessing the technology for social good. Healthcare, including things such as precision medicine, agriculture and food security, manufacturing, education in all forms, including remote education, lifelong learning, safer and faster transportation, clean and energy, dealing with environmental and climate change, and the fascinating revolutions in science that have been talked about by the previous. So, and then the government, I'm sorry. is there a lag? Okay. Sorry. Okay. So for the government side, there is need to invest in infrastructure, financing, and policy. Also, it is very important to create uniform standards and have data and knowledge sharing agreements so that small and medium industry units can benefit from each other, and also different countries. It is very important that the technology is responsible technology, which instead of disrupting our world and creating more divide, serves humanity, create better jobs, works towards social good. So I will make a point here that education has a very important role to play as an enabler of the fourth industrial revolution. As Dr. Menon and others have said, that the technology will mean that the low-level jobs will go away. And therefore, it is very important to increase the level of education, improve digital skills and literacy among the population so that they can take advantage of the new age jobs. On the other hand, at the higher end of the spectrum, innovation and research, they will be the drivers of the creative use of new technology. So it is very important to develop talent, and the talent which has the necessary research expertise and the innovative mindset, that is very rare. So it is very important to develop such talent so as more and more industries and countries can take advantage of this. So what is the role of universities here? Universities must make sure that the curriculum promotes innovative thinking, awareness of the technology and challenges facing the planet, and prepare students for lifelong learning. There should be research and innovation with industry partners, and universities can take part in skilling, reskilling and upskilling, and lifelong learning. And industry can also work with universities to deliver relevant technology expertise. And the universities should also promote entrepreneurship. Research and development are very important. So an ecosystem that connects academia and research labs with industry can drive innovation that can benefit the industry. At the same time, one needs to promote entrepreneurship so that the people can develop homegrown innovative solutions to societal challenges. And then cooperation is extremely important for countries, and industry have to be adaptive and embrace the technology in order to that they remain competitive. In sharing data, knowledge, use cases, technology expertise, and enablers for that should be worked on. I will now briefly tell about my institute and our center. So IIT Kharagpur has set up a Center for Excellence in Artificial Intelligence. This is a new center, and our objective is to work towards 4 goals. One is research, fundamental research in AI, to work with industry for industry-relevant projects, to work on teaching and outreach, and to promote entrepreneurship. And we look for scientific collaboration, industry consultancy, and sponsored research. We also take part in outreach education on different aspects of the new technology in order to spread more skill development and workshops and symposia. Just one more minute. There is also another center which is relevant in IIT Kharagpur. It's the DHI Center of Excellence in Advanced Manufacturing Technology, which has been supported by Ministry of Heavy Industries and Industry Consortium. And they drive innovative research in different vertical domains in manufacturing and other smart industry. And they have different initiatives. Among them, some of them which are relevant to AI are working on the digital thread, building of digital twins, retrofitting of the industry to legacy technology and other aspects. So what we feel is by looking at different models that exist in the world, it is important for academia to develop catapult centers, as it is called in UK, or technology transfer bodies, which can take the technology and make it ready for sharing with industry, for startups and other industries to take advantage of this technologies. So these sorts of structures are very important for industry and academia to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sarkar. It's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Vivek Saha from NASSCOM, New Delhi, to address you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone can hear me at the back? It's slightly difficult to handle a speech just after lunch. There were speakers. I was trying to prepare my speech in terms of encapsulating everything what I can bring on table. So I lead digital transformation and also Industry 4.0 for NASSCOM. It's a new division of NASSCOM which has a Center of Digital Excellence. It's called CODE. Now, I'll not speak about our charter right now, but let me ask a question. How many people out here are using Fitbits or Google Watch or Apple kind of a watch or any device on their phone or? Great. I think all those people are Industry 4.0 compliant, right? You have a Android phone. I just bought my Google Pixel, so I was gifted actually. I didn't buy it. So I know if I see that phone is fully artificial intelligence 4.0, right? I know it can gauge your speed, it can do everything for you. It senses so many things. The Google Assistant would do all the jobs for you. So I think it's very important about two things, and I'll just give you another story. I went into a very large meeting. Of course, it was not Ministry of External Affairs. It was a meeting with all the people, and we had 20 very senior delegates and corporates as well in that room. And we had a meeting in terms of what use cases and what not, right? I just asked one question that can we ask the definition of Industry 4.0 across the table. So we had around 15 definitions, right? So I think demystification of Industry 4.0 is very important. Second is the digital adoption. As the rubber hits the ground, I think we could see some of those use cases which are already on the table, right? They are being used in terms of whether it is healthcare. So your Fitbit is the best example of recording all your health data, and of course, to the restrictions of that data being shared to minimum number of hospitals. You can imagine that data can really cure a lot of diseases. So Government of India is working as we speak. MITI is with whom we are NASSCOM Center of Excellence is tied up. We are trying to get a solution around respiratory problems in India, right? And that can come through an anonymized data from some of your devices which you allow the provider to share it, right? So it's very important for us for the rubber to hit the ground, right? To scale innovation, we have to move academia, we have to move research all to the shop floor now. And that work in tandem has to work to make it scalable, to create the impacts. When I was talking to a very senior member of a digital adoption group in automotive industry, right? And we were talking about shop floor automation and optimizing supply chain. If you see the whole value chain of automotive industry, right? It starts right from sourcing, then it goes into manufacturing, distribution, logistics, right? Within manufacturing, you have additive manufacturing, you have 3D printing and all sorts of different technologies. So you have emerging technologies, which are the 9 technologies. Then you have a digital channels, as most of the people call it, as social, mobility, analytics, cloud, and security, right? I think the intersection point where all these resonates is Industry 4.0, right? And digital is about agility. If you can make businesses impact, if you can impact a shop floor in the manufacturing industry for a supply chain or inventory for that sake with different solutions, all tied in together and very much interoperable. I think we are moving towards scaling Industry 4.0 in some way. Frameworks, policies, regulations, standardizations, right? These are 4 big critical success factors for digital transformation to kind of scale, right? Or any innovation to scale. We can talk and talk and talk about research and the R&D which we do. I think a lot of companies, I come from a practitioner background. I've spent 10 years in Accenture Digital, and then I've spent 5 years in IBM and a lot of other organizations, right? I sell digital, right? People ask me when I go to a automotive industry, they would say, I'm not blaming the academia or research there, but there's a larger framework which is required for us to acquire. We have to resonate that, and we have to scale across framework, policies, regulations, right, and standardization. For example, BIS is doing a lot of standardization across some of the Industry 4.0 elements. Communication and infrastructure, right? If you really see, if you talk about Industry 4.0 in a larger sense, shop floor automation, robotics, where, I think the numbers might be wrong. By 2020 or 2025, we can put those 2 dates, we'll have around 2,000 trillion installed bases of IoT, right? Huge amount of data is going to come from all directions. We have technology to support that. We have machine learning to do that, to get the intelligence out of this. But how do we really scale that? How do we make it meaningful? We can say that, we can enhance supply chain by cost or operational cost by 20% or 15%. So I think it's very important. Communication is, if you see the layer by layer approach of Industry 4.0, infrastructure, communication, devices, IoT gateways, gateway, then you have a platform, then services company, and then there are people who are the key top-notch players in terms of doing R&D, right? Communications play a very vital role, right? Today we have 4G, we have long-range LoRaWAN or other technologies. But you can imagine if there is a line assembly and you want to deploy Industry 4.0 out there is not an iota of second or iota of mischance to happen, because if the communication breaks somewhere, right, the whole data line gets broken off at some point in time. So 5G technology, I think LoRaWAN is of course used, 4G is also used at different places. But the IT and OT convergence is coming out to be the most important layer. And I think with the advent of 5G technologies and 5G coming up, there are a lot of tariff issues and other regulations. But if we are able to solve that, we're going to really see the enormous benefit of IT-OT convergence. People spoke about skills to execute, right? And I call it as skills to execute. There is no risk at all about the jobs, actually. Maybe, no, I'm thinking in a absolutely different direction, and I'll complete in a minute before the next 2 minutes. There's no challenge at all. It's about getting more skilled work on the table. The unskilled work is going to go away, right? The mundane jobs is going to go away. This is what every country is doing that. We are trying to develop strategic skills, and with the advent of new technologies, you have to get new skills on the table, right? You have to stay relevant. Otherwise, we all will be antiquated on the skills we would have. So that's a very, very important aspect. Last but not the least, to complete my last 30 seconds, I think we all should imagine, I think we have all these conferences, we have this Indo-Pacific opportunity for all of us. We should start thinking about interoperability of Industry 4.0 across solutions, across IPs, create an ecosystem, create a standardization, get all the government bodies, which is always very much welcome. And I think government is taking a very large initiative to the extent NASSCOM is hosting that Center of Digital Excellence at different places. We are tying up with IITs as well in many places for us to prove the value. We have started calling it as prove the value, where we can be one step before the innovation to scale. So I leave all of you with a thought that if we have to scale and we have to make it real, we have to understand, we have to have a common definition of Industry 4.0 first, and then we have to create an ecosystem which encapsulates literally everything for us to echo and bring the impacts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saha. We now have, I will give you 15 minutes for open discussion, as is in my instructions. So the floor is open for questions or comments. Please identify yourself and keep your comments short. That will be appreciated. Ambassador Mohan Kumar.
Thank you very much. And that was a most fascinating panel, I thought. My question is simple. While all of you said there's nothing to worry and jobs will be created, I'm a little concerned about the level of skills in India and how many Indians can really take advantage of this. Because you're also saying, at the same time that you say jobs will be fine, you're also saying that the rate of technological change will be rapid, which means governments and policymakers will not have the time to put in place systems of education to train people. Skillability of people takes time. So my real concern, and I'm going to put it up front, if Mr. Narayanamurthy today is saying that 80% of the engineers in India are unemployable, I want you to tell me how many Indians are really skillable, because it's only then that I can be confident of your statement that this is good for me, AI. Thank you.
Questions? Two more, then we'll go for the replies. Anybody else? Yes, there.
Respected Chair and the panelists, thanks for the opportunity. I am BC Pradhan, a Government of India servant. My question is to the Chair and the panelists. Sir, how much we, the 1.3 billion people, can contribute to this industrial 4.0? These are based on certain assumptions. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. Sir, we take pride in inventing zero some 1,500 years ago, but we haven't figured it out why we have been stuck at zero since then.
May I remind you to be short and focused in your question?
Thank you, sir. I take my question. Thank you.
The third one, before we go for the replies. Okay, I think the question from Ambassador Mohan Kumar, I would like you to respond.
Yeah, that's a very important question, and it's worrisome. As you rightly pointed out, the technology is happening at a much faster rate. The government systems don't respond to that. So regulatory bodies are too slow to react to this. So even if, for example, a 4-year program that I was creating, I had to make sure that the students make the choice in the third year as to what electives they would choose. And so I cannot even guarantee that first year, the syllabus that I'm setting up by the time they graduate would be relevant. So I'm preparing the syllabus in a way that it would be relevant for them when they come out, like 5G is being taught to them now. But most of the government system, regulatory bodies are too slow to respond to that. That's why I have not gone to regulatory bodies. If I go to them, I cannot do this. So this is a serious concern because the regulatory bodies dictate 99% of the education system in the country, and it's too slow to react. We have to break that shackle. Otherwise, we'll doing the same thing that we have been doing. The point that you made is very valid.
Yeah, there are a couple of things here. One is skilling, the other one is reskilling, right? So when it comes to skilling, it is probably the responsibility of educational institutions to a large extent, but there are also a lot of changes happening. Now the government is allowing companies to start their own educational institution, engineering colleges and so on. So we had to move towards kind of agile systems, even in education as well as training and skill development and so on. So we have no other option but to become very agile. The current system is quite slow. So our universities still teach what was there 20 years back. That we cannot allow to happen. So we have to make them agile, and probably the government departments should take up onus to ensure that they are becoming very, very agile.
Dr. Menon.
We have a very strict chairman, but he's a very good chairman. I was going to say a few more things towards the end of my presentation, but it was cut off. But you gave me a good excuse to finish off. And I think one of the good things that might come out of all this incredible pessimism about job losses is that governments and firms are so worked up about the negative future that they are looking seriously at ways in which they can reskill their workforces. So this is the silver lining from the excessive pessimism. You cannot overdo the preparation for the future skill requirements that's unpredictable, right? So you need a set of skills that allows you, as I said, to learn how to keep learning and keep adapting to changing requirements. I don't have the answers, but I know that at this point we probably are over-anticipating the speed of job losses as well, right? The experience of previous industrial revolutions, and I know this one is a bit different, but still, is that it does take a long time for these things to feed through the system. So there is time. That's not an excuse to, not work hard and fast, but there is time before these things feed through the system, and so we have the ability to prepare if we get onto it as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any other panelists would like to say something?
Yeah, I think I was at another conference where the similar question was asked, right? We all understand there's a lot of training which happens, right? But very less of skilling which happens, and there's a subtle or a big difference between training and skilling. If you take an example of computer science industry, the people are skilled inside the labs. Right? They can write the program. Surely they will initially write Hello Java program, right? And then they will graduate and then they can get skilled. If you talk about manufacturing or Industry 4.0, that's in that sake, we need such kind of training kits. For example, machine-to-machine learning. We need such kind of an apparatus for the people to come and get skilled, right? The attitude and aptitude is there. The basic knowledge to start, the curriculums are always there. But we need a place where people can dirty their hands. And I think that's where we have to move in terms of to the next leap if we have to really get the remaining 80%. Thank you.
I just have one point to add. I think technology itself can play a very important role in good quality skilling at scale. And we should embrace that opportunity. In India, it may have been mentioned that many people are employable and not employable. That may be because of the quality of the skills that have been imparted. The population of the country is skilled to learn, willing to learn. There have to be scaled effects of using technology to impart high quality skills.
Thank you. I thank all my panelists for cooperating with me in keeping to the time limits, and to all of you for your attention. It's clear that we have a lot of questions thrown up by this rapid advance of technology. I don't think anyone has the answers yet. So our Indo-Pacific region is facing this big challenge of how to cope with this technological change. We must not blindly follow the West in this regard. We have to fashion our own responses based on our own analysis and our own needs. Now, one thing which nobody really mentioned much is the importance of civil society. The response of civil society to technological change is very important. It puts pressure on the government for regulation and controls. So unless those who know the technology go and take the trouble to explain it to civil society, I'm afraid that the regulatory response will not be optimum. So with these few words, I think the Indo-Pacific process has a lot of things to discuss in this section, in this field of technological change. We must remember that Asia was, in ancient times, the leader in the world in technology. We lost that leadership sometime in the Middle Ages. We've never got it back. Perhaps in the future, some date, we will get it back. So I thank you all for your attention and for your presence here, and I'll close the session here.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sirs, for the wonderful and engaging session. May I now please request the chair for the session to present mementos to the lead speaker and panelists for the session. Now, I would also like to invite Dr. Prabir De from the RIS to please present a memento to the chair for the session, Ambassador Bhaskar Balakrishnan from the RIS. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sirs. I request you to kindly join the audience. In the interest of time, we'll be directly moving into the fifth plenary session.